Hello everyone. I am today with Matthew David, which has a great project on Kickstarter. And hello, Matthew.
Hello, William. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. I really appreciate it.
I saw you have a great 5e project on your Kickstarter. I would like to know more.
Oh, sure. So right now we're running a project. It's called the Mad Lab, and this is actually the latest in the series that I call Penny Blood Adventures, where they're all gothic horror themed adventures. And the Mad Lab is actually a mixture of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau. So you have the concept of creatures that are being created by a doctor, and in the game you get to explore the town that's being terrorized by the creatures. There's an island where the creatures are trying to escape to, and then there's the Mad Lab, the actual house where the doctor is creating all of these engineered monstrosities. And the game itself is also intended to be played as a kind of a one shot, so you can run the game in one evening with players of levels 1 to 5.
Oh, very spooky for so close to Halloween.
Yeah, it's funny. The games themselves, I started doing the first one in the summer, and one of the things that I'm very passionate about is very classic gothic horror movies, the Universal movies from the 40s and 50s, and the Hammer horror movies of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I just love them. They're fun. They're a bit campy. And I thought it would be great to do some D&D 5e adventures based on that kind of characters and those kind of settings. And they've proven to be very popular.
And is there any additional mechanic in your setting?
Yes, so that's a really great question. And so with the game itself, there are three additional mechanics. The first one is that the game itself is designed for players levels 1 to 5 and a small group of 3 to 5 players. But I do add in a tool that allows dungeon masters to scale the game up for either larger groups or for being able to scale the game up for players that are at higher levels. So the game can be challenging for all players at all levels. The second is I also add in the ability, so with my games, that you can actually play the monster as well. So instead of battling the monster, you can actually be the monster. And so there actually is a full class description of the monsters, and we call them in the book Uplift, and that's a reference to Wells's Island of Dr. Moreau. And so you can actually be that character, and you can actually be that monster in the game. And then the third is a new concept for this game that I'm experimenting with, that I call storylines. And so with the game, because it's D&D, you can play it lots of different ways. But I thought it'd be really good to have three distinct storylines. So as you're playing the game, are you playing the game from the point of view of protecting the people in the little town that are being terrorized by the monsters? Or are you playing the game from the point of view of the monsters themselves and why they are terrorizing the town, and the challenges that they're facing? And then the third is being able to play the game from the point of view of the mad doctor and what he is trying to do. And so the storyline concept really allows the game to have three distinct ways in which it can be played. So you can actually play the game multiple times and have three completely different experiences.
Oh, great. It's quite original.
hmm Yes, and depending on how it gets received, I'll probably be doing this for future games that I develop.
I would like to know more about you. Could you tell me
Sure.
how long you have been playing RPGs and what license did you play?
Oh, it's a really good question. So I've always been fascinated with world building. So I was born and raised in the 70s, and there was very limited options. And but I got very quickly into Tolkien and Narnia and other books that had very complex worlds. And in the early 80s, my first introduction to RPG was actually a book series called Final Fantasy, Fighting Fantasy. And they just actually celebrated their 40th anniversary. And that really got me excited about what you could do when you could play a game. And then shortly after that, I got involved with Dungeons and Dragons and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So it would have been yeah, so Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so 2.0 is when I got involved. Um, I then went to university and met my wife and got married and we had kids. And so I took a break for a long time because raising kids is a big enough adventure by itself. And it's only been the last couple of years that I've really gone back into RPG. And 5e is really my favorite model. I'm very interested and I've been following closely the one D&D model that's being developed right now. I haven't really gone into other models, but I've had a lot of my bankers have actually written to me saying, "Hey, you really need to get into old school essentials and just kind of that more event driven." Style for Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm probably going to start looking at that. I've been ordering a couple of books on how to get into that gaming concept, so I know more about how it works.
And could you tell me some peculiar stories or maybe a fail that you had in one of your games?
Yeah, so this was a great question. I really enjoyed you sharing this one with me. About a year ago, and this was before I started writing Kickstarter campaigns, I was developing a game. It was one of my first, it was, I think, the second game where I was the DM. And so I had about a month to prepare. So I developed this map of this city, and there was a forest around the city, and then there was a ancient, dilapidated part of the city, and the city had different regions. And I developed the politics for the city and the different types of people, and developed maps for 40 buildings in the city. Had all these different storylines going on, and got the players together, and I was expecting it to be this really great campaign. And what ended up happening is for the first two times that the players got together, we were meeting, and it was like 3 hours each time. All they wanted to do was find the nearest tavern in the city and get drunk for the entire evening. So the play, I had this huge complex game with history and stories and mini games, and the players didn't want to do any of that.
Quite
So
frustrating.
yeah, it was. I was trying to encourage them to do stuff, but they're like, "No, no, no, we're having a lot of fun." I'm like, "Well, hey, that really is the name of the game is to have fun."
Okay, great. And a lot of players like yourself um, want to try to be a DM, but it
Hmm.
can be quite intimidating at first. So I would like to know,
Yes.
would you have some advice for the players that would like to start?
Yeah, so that's a great question because it is intimidating, and one of the things that I learned by planning out this large complex game is that the actual research really helped. And doing the planning, and that works for me. I like a lot of details, and so what helped me, what benefited that is we actually had in the tavern, we had some NPCs that the players were interacting with. And so the NPCs knew the story and the background for the whole city. And so that's what gave it realism. But with that said, while having a lot of detail is good, also be really comfortable for completely unexpected things to happen and just kind of go with the flow. You as the DM, you have, I think, two rules. One is you are the narrator of the story, so you're kind of guiding the story and the players through that story. But you're also God, which means that you can make anything happen. And so your goal is to have everybody have a lot of fun. And so if they start making decisions that seem a little crazy, just go with it. And whatever you then choose to have happen is completely okay because you're the DM, and at the end of the day, you're in charge.
Thank you very much. So I will put a link in the description of the video so everybody can discover your project. And thank you again. Hope to see your project blossom.